Here come the socialists. The Democratic Socialists of America last night had an excellent night when their candidates defeated, sometimes by wide margins, their Republican opponents in some very important local elections. So let's start out with Lee Carter in Virginia. So Lee Carter describes himself as very, very progressive. He said, "I am unabashedly pro-union, pro-worker. I'm only fighting against the large corporate interests." Hey, that's my kind of guy. And he says that's something that you don't see a lot of politicians in either party do very much of. Incredibly true. He said, and that's something that Virginia, frankly, has not seen very much since the days of Henry Howell. And Henry Howell, of course, was a very progressive populist state senator and even turned out to be the lieutenant governor in both the 1960s and the 70s. So he's likening himself to a progressive champion. Now, his platform includes a ban on corporate lobbying contributions, again, right up my alley, and a limit on individual contributions, as well as single-payer health care and a ban on fracking. Now, that fracking ban is actually going to, and the whole issue of fracking is actually going to go into why he was not supported by the Virginia Democratic Party. They didn't support him whatsoever. So they completely abandoned him. He had to raise his own money, do his own thing, because the Democrats, unfortunately, in Virginia, are owned by energy companies. Now, the Democratic Party establishment is aligned with Dominion Energy. Now, and it supports Dominion's desire to build an Atlantic coast natural gas pipeline across Virginia. In fact, this is one of the Democrats' top donors. The Democratic Party of Virginia had received $125,000 from Dominion back in 2016, according to the Virginia Public Access Project. So Carter and is like, no, I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of taking corporate money contributions, especially from Dominion Energy. These environmentalist groups are also not in favor, obviously, of this natural gas pipeline. So you know what? I don't need your stinking money. I can win on my own. And that's exactly what he did. So Carter had crushed his opposition. He said for-profit corporations exist to make money. So if they're giving money to a politician, it's not out of the goodness of their heart. It's because they're getting something in return every single time. So unfortunately, he's absolutely correct. But fortunately, again, he did win his election. So that is awesome. There's more. Nakuya Walker. Now, Nakuya Walker is very interesting because she didn't run as a Democrat. She actually ran as an independent and actually won a seat on the Charlottesville City Council. Walker ran on the issue of creating a living wage for city employees, as well as focusing on affordable housing, local government transparency, and addressing racial inequality in Charlottesville. Now, Charlottesville, of course, we know that because it had been in the news, that's where Heather Heyer was killed. It's Charlottesville. It's where the alt-right had their protests with the tiki torches and all that stuff. So racial division, of course, in that area is very, very strong. So it's very important that somebody actually goes and addresses some of this racial inequality in that area. And that's exactly what she is trying to do. Now, in Pittsburgh, Mick Pappas is a DSA and Our Revolution endorsed judge. He also won his race for district judge. Now, he ran as an independent, and his platform includes eliminating the bail system. He said, quote, "I'm not a believer in money bail. While those accused of violent crimes should be held until trial, for economic crimes like drug offenses, I can't see how putting someone in jail is justified. While defendants can walk free if they post a bond, in the case of impoverished defendants, you know it's unfair to impose bail when they cannot pay." Now, Pappas also said that he wanted to look into landlord-tenant disputes because, quote, "eviction is a major trauma. And we know that landlords are far more likely to attend a hearing with a lawyer. So in that situation, there's a great imbalance of power." And he, of course, wants to balance that out by helping out people who can't afford those fancy lawyers. So that's Mick Pappas. We also have Seema Singh Perez, who also won a spot in the Knoxville City Council. That's another one. He has a very interesting race, Larry Krasner. Now, he won his bid to be the DA in Philadelphia by over 40 points. He completely crushed his opponents. Now, what's significant in this race, like some of the others, is that his positions were considered very far to the left of the Democrats. Now, Krasner, of course, is a civil rights and defense attorney who has represented Black Lives Matter in Occupy Philly, and has also sued the police and City Hall more than 75 times. Holy crap. Now, he is also, in addition to working, of course, on behalf of Black Lives Matter, has stated in his position that he will never, ever seek the death penalty or bring cases based on illegal searches. So he's like, death penalty, gone. I'm not going to enforce it. I'm not going to seek the death penalty. I would love to ban the death penalty. That's amazing. Krasner once joked that he had spent, quote, a career becoming completely unelectable, and yet he was totally electable, crushed by over 40 points. He's actually also described as being one of the most progressive politicians in Philadelphia, and maybe the most progressive district attorney in the entire country. Now, one of his positions is to eliminate cash bail, as I mentioned before, eliminate the death penalty, and also he's a big proponent against fighting police corruption. So, of course, he wants to take on corruption. Again, that's super awesome. Now, this race is also super important because it was actually getting a lot of national attention because of how much it pitted him against establishment, more centrist Democrats. He wasn't running against Republicans. He was running against other Democrats because this is a very blue area. So, and look, he even ran against some more progressive-minded reformers. But out of all of them, he was furthest to the left. And again, crushed his opposition. That's a big, big win for progressives. I mean, this has been watched and talked about as one of the biggest proxy fights with the Bernie wing versus the establishment wing. And so there were people who were openly worried about somebody going too far left and losing. But again, he crushed his opponents. He actually did run against a Republican, by the way, and beat her by 40 points. So these are excellent victories, and there are far more that I actually didn't have time to go and look up and to explain to you. But there are, again, there were a ton of local and state victories for progressives, and it's amazing. Now, the establishment, of course, is focused a lot on Tim Murphy and Ralph Northam. Those are the centrist Democrats, of course. And they'll come out and be like, well, look at Northam, look at all this. See, going to the center, it works. We got to be more conservative to win in these areas, which is crazy if you're talking about New Jersey. But when you're talking the Virginia race, that's exactly where they decided to go further right. I mean, considering Northam's positions, like I said, on sanctuary cities, it's ridiculous. But they'll explain that, no, you have to go that way. You have to go and appeal to Republicans so you can get Republican support. Well, look, that's the takeaway they want you to have. The real takeaway is that progressives are just as able to win races, and they actually have won. Now, they can say, the progressives, Bernie Sanders, they can't win in any of these areas. Well, there's a lot of areas, like I said, in Virginia, in other in other states that actually have seen progressives win, and not just progressives, but literal democratic socialists. That's big. Independents as well. I mean, if anybody doubts the power of progressives' ideas, you should only look at these races. Ton of DSA-backed progressive candidates won their elections against Republicans. Overall, so far, about 56% of all DSA candidates running in this cycle have actually won elections, and that's a major, major achievement. And of course, it goes pretty far to shatter the myth that we need to tack to the center in order to win elections. No. It turns out progressive ideas and policies are popular, and most importantly, they work and they win. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.